October 9th, Rob, was the night that The Athletic and I broke the story about all the allegations involving Greg Marshall. That he punched Shaq Morris in October, Midnight Madness, that day of October of 2015. That he choked an assistant coach, Kyle Lindstedt, the next year. That he made racist statements, Native American kid on the team, Poor Bear Chandler, told him to get back on his horse and made Indian howling noises, body shamed a kid that I'm not going to say his name, and I kept it quiet. But his dad told me he was in his basement for the last 3 years, so emotionally distraught from everything he had gone through playing for Greg Marshall. Shaq Morris and Ty Taylor both told me on the record about the punch. The investigation started more than 2 months ago. Tooth Keeney was the firm they hired. But the problem was, Rob, that none of the kids, none of the players from that year, 2015-16, would talk to him. I was talking to all these players, and they were saying, listen, we don't trust the law firm. We don't know whether they're pro-Marshall. We just didn't get a good feel. So nobody really talked to the investigator until in the last maybe week or so. So that's why this investigation has dragged out. Now, my sources tell me last week, Monday, Tuesday, multiple players finally spoke to the investigators. Right. So, and multiple ones recounted the incident with Shaq Morris. Yep. So I think something is coming down here soon. It's got to be. I mean, again, we're 2.5 weeks in at this point. The investigators have all the information now on the record. But it's going to be interesting to see listen, he was never suspended. He's still coaching the team.
Still coaching the team, which is so insane. It's so insane. He should be fired. And honestly, to me, just from reading the stuff that the Wichita State kids have said, I know a guy. His name's Sheldon Bailey. He played at Winthrop. Good guy. Like now he's an actor on Hollywood. Really good dude. I've done some.
How do you know him?
Because we filmed something for NBC last November for the Olympics for 3-on-3. And he was one of the guys that played, and we were demonstrating the rules with a guy named Rutledge Wood, who's like a NASCAR guy who does some Olympic stuff. So he's he's LeBron's body double in like Space Jam 2, and he has been for like 10 years. Like he's really done he's had a really good career in terms of going to Hollywood. But like I read the Athletic article about he was in it and some of the other Winthrop kids. To me, I think Greg Marshall should be banned for life from coaching, like in the NCAA. Yep. He should never coach again. And it's because when you have these kids that come to your school, you have a responsibility. Like they're in a way, these kids they can make you so much money. Like you look at it, he's paid $3 million a year. And it's because his teams have won. Now he's a good coach, don't get me wrong, but his players have had to go out and play. And Greg Marshall's not making 3-point shots from the bench. Like, let's be real about that. The players have got to do it. But it's one of those deals where like you have a responsibility to all those kids to give them not only a positive experience, whether you win or lose, but to help set them up for life. Yeah. So when you tell me that there's a kid that for 3 years has been sitting in his basement, emotionally distraught because he was body shamed by his coach, I'm never going to be somebody that says you should like your head coach all the time. Right. There are plenty of times where I left practice and I was like, man, Coach Painter was kind of an asshole today. But I didn't go to Purdue for him to be my friend. Is he my friend today? Yes. Am I glad he's my friend today? Yes. But I wanted him to hold me accountable. I wanted him to make sure that I go from a teenager to an adult. And I want him to make me a better player. So I wanted him to coach me hard. And he did. He coached all of us hard. But there's going to be times, I remember hearing a story, I'm pretty sure it was about Gordon Hayward. I heard this through like the grapevine prior to sports because Mark Marvel's team he represents Gordon, and he represented me. And I want to say David Lee took Gordon out to dinner one night when Gordon was like a rookie. And David Lee's talking to him because he's a priority guy as well. And after dinner, Mark hit up David Lee and was like, what'd you think? And David Lee goes, man, Mark, that kid is screwed up. He likes his college coach.
He likes Brad Stevens. But Brad is not. I mean, Brad is like the nicest dude of all time. But that's like, it's not unusual for guys to be like, man, my college coach, he could be a jerk. But this is so beyond that.
Yeah.
Like, this is so far beyond what should be acceptable that to me, he should be fired and he should never coach Division I college basketball ever again.
Rob, I talked to like 37 former, current players, coaches, and like 3 defended Greg Marshall.
Yeah.
Now, again, most off the record. And I tell everybody said, well, nobody went on the record. Yeah, because the guys who played there for 4 years come back and they're revered, right? And they make money there. They do camps, they sign autographs. And as long as Greg Marshall is the coach, yeah, they're scared. I mean, this guy's got power, right? Winning breeds power, which breeds fear. And a lot of these players, yeah, they're not putting their names. Fred VanVleet's not going to come out right now and go after Greg Marshall. Ron Baker's not going to do it. Neither is Landry Shamet. None of those guys have come out, period, which I think is telling, Rob. None of them have come out to back Greg Marshall.
Yeah, it's not just that they're saying he did do this. It's them saying he didn't do this.
That's right.
You know, that's what to me is if somebody came after Matt Painter and said he was abusive as a coach, man, I would not be able to stand by that. I would.
You go crazy, right?
With all my teammates, we would all come out and say, no, he's not.
There have been about 6
at his maddest. I know what he is like when he is really pissed, and it's not that. Like, it's definitely not that, you know?
Yeah, you've had about a half dozen that predate the Shaq Morris team in 2015-16 that have come out. Torrey Murray, who played in the league, Joe Ragland, Ramon Clemente. There have been a few, but again, it's a small percentage, and not one since 2015-16 has come out to back him. Now, who has backed him, Rob? Tom Devlin. Tom Devlin is their second biggest booster. Charles Koch, their biggest booster. Tom Devlin used to own Rent-A-Center. He came out and wrote basically an editorial letter to the editor where he basically said, I stand in support of Greg Marshall. And then a guy, Bob Geist, I think that I'm pronouncing it right, from Pizza Hut. He also came out and they wrote something, him and another guy. And again, they're buddies with Marshall. I get it.
Right.
They're buddies with him. But how can you condone, to me?
You cannot. It's not 1985.
Right.
It's not Bobby Knight at Indiana. That's over with.
You can't condone that shit. Like, to me, again, the guys that I have, people are like, well, you've got it out on Greg Marshall. You've had it out against him. And I'm like, no, you got to understand. Greg Marshall's never done one thing to me. Billy Gillespie never did one thing to me. But you know what? When you hear of these things going on, yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to go after him.
Yeah.
Because
you got to stand up for these kids. Like, because if you're not going to, and other people aren't in the media aren't going to put it out there, he's going to keep doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and again, I've called like 4 Wichita State games. He's been nothing but nice to me when I've been there.
Sure.
But if this is happening, he's got to go.
It, again, I think something will come out this week, but it wouldn't shock me. Listen, it's still money talks. And Tom Devlin, think about this too. Greg Marshall's got a 7-year rolling contract at $3.5 million. And if the lawyer, the general counsel from Wichita State says, after looking at all the investigation, the information from the interviews, if they say, hey, listen, if we fire him, I don't know, we might have to pay him. What do they do? Or we might have to settle and pay him $15 million.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Especially if those boosters are saying, I'm pulling my money.
Pulling my money.
Now you're in a tough situation. But I would hope that school would do right by those kids.
You would hope so, but man, I don't know which way it's going to go right now. I do not.
How could you ever, like, what player would go to Wichita State after this?
Here's the one thing I'll say about that, Rob. Here's the one thing. People have said that to me. They're like, well, how is he going to be able to recruit? And my deal is Ron Baker was a walk-on. He was a walk-on.
No, there's no question that Greg Marshall gets the most out of these, like, and is a good coach. Like, that's not up for debate. He does a good job, but still, if you want to win at the level that Wichita State has been winning at,
no, you're 100% right.
Last year, you're not just going to. Ron Baker is a great example.
Yeah, but he's the exception.
he is not the norm of the walk-ons that you get.
That's right. He's
He's an NBA player, and he plays high-level EuroLeague basketball.
Right.
Like, so if he can keep doing that with walk-ons, then Greg Marshall might be the greatest coach in the history of the planet. So while I do appreciate that example, that might not be what he does with every walk-on that comes to Wichita State.
You know what you'll want to be at if Greg Marshall keeps his job? You will want to be at the Peach Jam next year in July when I attend the Peach Jam and see Greg Marshall, and I sit next to him. Greg Marshall?
It might look like that clip from Canada when Wichita State.
Totally is, or the clip when he punched Shaq Morris.
You better bring your bodyguards. What you better do.
I'm bringing you.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to. You want to see me in Augusta, South Carolina? I want to ask: has anybody said what happened to the practice footage from the Shaq? I mean, I'm sure it's been out of here, but
A player had said to me, one of the players I talked to said that that he told them to destroy the tape. I can't confirm that. I don't know that for certain. How about this one, Rob? There were boosters in there. There were a couple boosters in there. I don't know who they were. CBS was in there filming Men of March. No. So they were in there. Yes. Now they may have turned off the footage by then, because usually when those things happen, I've been in enough of those, they get what they can. They don't usually stay till the very end of practice. A lot of times they'll stay for an hour.
They're shooting. There's not like they're doing like the most basic.
Right.
Yeah.
How about that?
Wow. That is so crazy.
Crazy.
I don't know if I'm surprised though. I love to think about myself in that situation as a player. Your teammate gets punched by your coach. And then he gives some half-ass apology. I don't understand how these kids, and I get it. He's in a position of power. You're 18 to 22.
That's what Shaq told me. Shaq's like, well, what am I going to do? Punch a
No, I'm not saying punch you back. I'm just saying go to the AD. But maybe they're like, hey, the AD and him are tied. It's not going to matter.
I think they probably were at that point. Maybe they still are. I don't know.
Right. I just think it's so crazy that all it took was all right, guys, about what happened yesterday. We moved past it, and then everybody just is like, okay,
right.
That's pretty wild.